Hey everybody, welcome to video 3 of this build. And at this point what we're going to do is, in this video we're going to just create the basic site for our trivia game. So what I'm going to do is head back to our HTML file. Actually, I'll just do the project from here since we already got this going. And I am going to cut this for now. Let's just make our JavaScript and CSS file. So new file, CSS dot or style.css, and then a new file called app.js. Let's link those. Somewhere over here, the script under my jQuery, I'm going to first, let's link the CSS file. So I type in link, choose link CSS, style.css, perfect. And then I'm going to choose script source, and then I'm going to choose app.js, and I'm going to add a defer keyword so that way I can use my jQuery in there. And I'm actually going to literally cut this code into that file, X for later, when we get there. So I'm just going to comment that out for now. And I'm going to get rid of the script tag. So first what I'm going to do is just kind of sketch out where do we want stuff to show up. So basically we want a title. So I'm going to say H1. Our my JS trivia game, and then below we'll have like a div for displaying the question. So we'll call it, so I'll use Emmet, so div with an ID of Q. That's where our questions will show up. Okay. Then I'm going to have a div with an ID of A for answers, and inside this div we're going to have for our a UL with our 4 answers. So UL, I'm actually will give that UL idea ID. Nah, I can just use the class, and then we'll just create a bunch of LIs. LI, I'm going to give them each an ID. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this answer, and I'm going to make this question, just to be a little bit more explicit. Also, because I want this to be A, for answer A. LIB, LIC, and LID. There we go. And I'm going to just put some placeholder text for now. Answer 1. Answer 2. Actually, should just be answer A. Answer B. And that's all this typing is. Let's just do it this way. Answer. I can, if you hold Alt, you can do the cursor twice. C, and then I can just make this D over here. And then here we'll just say this, some lorem ipsum text. Okay. Lorem. Good. Okay. So right now this is not going to look like anything. So see right here just looks like blah. Okay, and then I am going to want to have we'll say another div with scores. Okay, and then we're going to have another div that's player 1, and another div that's player 2. Div player 2. And then in both of these, what they're going to have is an H1. This is, actually make it an H3. And that H3 will say player 1. And then an 4 with the score. So we'll start with 0. And I'll kind of do the same thing here. Control C. And this would be player 1, player 2. Cool. Okay, so that kind of sketches out the basic idea. So now let's use some CSS and decorate this a little bit nicer. So first, let's go to our style.css. Okay, first, I would always like to make some decorations. Okay. So I'm going to say this is for the heading. Control Z. And then we're going to make this a comment. There we go. So I can just copy that whenever I want to make another thing. Okay, and that's going to be the initial h1. Actually, did I give that an ID? I always prefer using the IDs or classes. So nope, I just give that an ID. No ID, so it's just going to be an h1. And the styling of that h1 is we're going to make sure we center the text. So text align center. And we are going to say the text color is, let's try royal blue. Let's see how that's looking. Okay, that's fine for now. Okay, then we'll style the question. Okay. And that's an ID of question that has. Let me just double check. Yep, an ID of question. Now I want this to have a width of 70%. And I want it to have a padding of 30 pixels. You know, that way the question text is kind of nice and not touching the edges. We'll give it a border. Border of 3 pixels. Solid blue. Okay, we'll give it a background color. Background color of, give it royal blue, so that we need to make the font color something that'll show up on that. So color white. Let's make the font size a little bit bigger. And we'll say 28 pixels to start off with. Let's see how that's looking. Okay, so that's cool. Now I want to center that box. So I need to make the margin 10 pixels auto. The auto is what centers it. There we go. So the question will always show up in that box. Okay, and then we want the answers. So let's style the answers. The answers, and let's take a look how we have that set up. So we have the answers, and then we have the ULs and the UL and the LI in there. So first let's do the answer. CSS. So the answer, I want that to also be 70%. So width, actually make that 50%. Width 50%. Margin 10 pixels auto, so that way it's centered. The 10 pixels is just the top and bottom margin. So that way it's not bumping up against the question. Margin auto. Then we want the color to be white, and then the background color to be red. Okay, and actually I'm going to make it a flex box because I want to perfectly center that UL inside of it. So I want to make this display flex, and I'm going to say justify content center, align items center. Okay, And then we're going to give it some padding of 20 pixels. Okay, so let's see how that's looking so far. So, okay. Now we just need to kind of get these answers to kind of look more the way we want. So first, next will be the UL. So inside the answer div, any ULs that are children of it. That's answers or answer? Answer, let me just check here. It is answer. Okay, the UL should take up the full width, that's fine. But it should also be a flex box. I want it to be a flex box. I want it to wrap. So flex, wrap, wrap. So that way, because I'm going to make the individual answers so wide that it's going to force it to be like 2 per row. Justify content. I want there to be space around. Okay. And I want, let's see how that's looking so far. So right now all the answers are right there. Let's just do list style none, just to get rid of those. There we go. And then let's the style be individual answer ULLIs. So we're targeting the LIs that are in there. So all 4 of them. And I want the width of these to be 40% the width of the thing. I want them to have a height, let's say 40 pixels. Background color. Let's see here. Background color black. Let's see how that's looking. Okay. Really 40%? Well, it's 40 pixel height, yes. The width, not so much what I think it would be. Oh, I see the UL is not that wide. So let's make the UL wider. So let's make the width of the UL 100%. Okay, so see that's starting to look more like kind of what I'm intending. Okay. Cool. And now I want each of these LIs, I want their text to be center. So we're going to give padding of 10 pixels. So that way the text is a little bit more like centery. And then I want the vertical alignment center, so text align center. Should be looking a bit better. Yep, but they're touching each other, so let's fix that by giving it a little bit of margin. Margin, we'll say 5 pixels to do it. Yep, that's a wee bit better. Could use a little bit more padding. So let's add another 5 to the padding. Let's just making the box bigger, I think. Let's just say padding. Padding. I only want the padding on the top to be this big. So is that? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So that's more like what I wanted. Let's just make it bold. So font weight equals bolder. Okay. Cool. So we see the things there. And now we just need to decorate this player 1 and player 2 thing. And then we'll have like our game board kind of all set up. So Control C, the scoreboard. Scoreboard. And what I want to do here is, let's see here, what was the ID I created for that? Scores. So I want scores, ID of scores, scores. Let me just make sure it's scores. Okay, I want that to also be a flex box because I want both player scoreboards to be kind of side by side. So display flex. I want the width to be also around 70%. Background color. Put some other fun color. Say let's use dark slate gray. Okay, let's see how that's looking so far. Getting there. I need to center the block. And then justify the content. So we want to justify the 2 player blocks to be justify content. I want those to be centered. And I want the block to be 10 pix auto for the margin, so that way it centers the block. So we're kind of getting it. Okay, and now what are those divs? So that's a div underscores. So scores, or I could just use the IDs. Yeah, player 1, player 2. So I could just do this player 1 and player 2 will both get this style. And I both want them to have a width of 40% of that space. I want them to have a background color, something that'll contrast. Let's try the dark goldenrod. It's probably gonna look tacky, but whatever. Okay, that's fine. I want to give some margin on these. So margin, let's give it 5 pixels. Does that give us a little bit better? Yep. It's still kind of ugly, but it's fine. Player 1, player 2, and I want the text to be center. So text align center. And there we go. So we got our game board for the most part. Again, this is not the prettiest thing in the world. We literally put this together in like 17 minutes. But the idea is that now we have a board that we can now take into our JavaScript. We have a place to put our questions. We have a place to track the player score. And we have a place to track the answers. Okay, so pretty straightforward. And the next video we'll actually start like building out the functionality. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao.